we're going to be addressing the object which many children are instructed at a young age to use for protection. And some say comfort. Parents oftentimes put it in the bathroom, maybe a drawer somewhere, and is most commonly used when we're not wearing clothing. So again, I apologize in advance if this makes anybody uncomfortable, but we're going to be starting today talking about towels. Yeah. I don't use those towels. I haven't since my 11th birthday. When people find this out, they're like, oh, so you air dry. Well, no, actually, I don't. I kind of just throw my clothes on with my body soaking wet, which I know can be a bit risky. What if I get sick or people laugh at me because I look different? Doesn't bother me. What matters is the fact that there exists this voice in the back of my head saying that although what you do is a bit unorthodox, it gets the job done in ways so much better than what society says is the right way to do things. Not using a towel for me is more energizing, faster, and just gets the job done better. But speaking not about towels, we as a people must be able to step out of societal norms. We must be comfortable being a bit unorthodox. In the case of the Brazilian soccer player Pele, he grew up playing an ancient and outmoded version of soccer known as Ginga. Now, if you don't know what Ginga is, it's basically a very ancient version of the game that combines a bit of martial arts, dancing, and some athleticism to play what is known as the beautiful game. However, the more Pele practiced Ginga, and the more he was recruited by top-level teams, the more coaches would look at him and say, "What are you doing playing Ginga?" Pele was soon forced to play an uptight and rigid version of soccer, in which his skill set soon found himself on the bench, then on the practice squad, and then questioning his dream at all. It wasn't until Pele was alone on the field for what he thought would be one of his last times playing Ginga that a coach came up to him, saw this level of play, and asked him his story, to which Pele responded with his story of defeat. The coach looked at him, told Pele to live his life to its fullest potential, and if that wasn't good enough for the teams he was trying to be on, then he was too good for them. Playing Ginga, Pele went back to his teams, soon became the youngest player ever at just 17 to start in a World Cup final, would become the only player ever to win 3 World Cup finals, and then would be voted athlete of the 20th century. Pele lived his life to the fullest, playing Ginga. And while that may not be what you do, it is our duty as people of our society to live our lives to the fullest, which can be a hard concept to conceptualize. In fact, there isn't even a word on the internet to describe someone who lives their life to the fullest. Thanks to Google, we have words like a lust for life, which is awesome, but doesn't encompass what it truly means to live your life to the fullest. I think of myself as a Livitfulist, a word which I've come to develop this year when I couldn't think of one or even find one that describes someone who truly lives their life to the fullest. To be a Livitfulist, live it fullest. That's it. Live your life to its fullest potential. Now, that doesn't mean that we suddenly all play Ginga and become professional soccer players. It means you focus on what you want to become, then shape everything in your life towards becoming exactly that. By doing this, you're following the principle, which I've also come to develop this year, that a breadth of experience leads to a depth of knowledge. Now, that depth of knowledge is the depth which you often hear scientists and philosophers talk about that we need in order to achieve success at its highest level, to achieve mastery. Well, I contend that the only way to achieve this depth is by a breadth of experience. In this way, and only this way, do we as people truly become limitless. In the case of Thomas Edison, a man whose sole goal was to change the world, he did so by creating the light bulb, something which has revolutionized everything we have today, every aspect of our modern world. However, Edison's depth of knowledge in creating the light bulb in the scientific field couldn't have possibly come without his breadth of experience, without his over 1,000 failures in creating the light bulb alone, and over 1,000 failures in creating horrifying objects like this talking doll. Edison, in his time, was first known to give children nightmares before he was known to change the world. His breadth of experience led to his depth of knowledge. But the question then becomes, how do we, people who aren't Thomas Edison, live our lives to the fullest? How do we get that breadth of experience? Well, it takes some heart. In fact, when I was in first grade, I was placed on a behavior modification chart because I was asking too many questions. If I asked 3 or less questions in one class period, I got a check mark, whereas if I asked more than 3, I received an X. In the case that I received an X, I would have to come in during recess, sit down and write, "I will not disrupt the class" 100 times on a piece of paper. From a young age, our creativity is being stifled. And if it weren't for my parents simply signing me up to play 10 sports at the same time and putting me in every school club, I would have never experienced the breadth that I have. It was my free will coming into high school that allowed me to do everything that I have. Whether it was being a captain on the soccer field, taking the hardest possible course load, participating in every school talent show, running a business, or being the first chair in the chamber orchestra, to name a few things, my breadth of experience has allowed me my depth of knowledge in discovering who I am. From the courage I learned I must show on stage in school talent shows, the confidence I had to represent on the soccer field, the social ability I gained in running a business, the poise I had to maintain on the orchestra, and the drive which I learned in the classroom. Everything about my life has given me a depth of knowledge as to who I really am and what I want to become. So I challenge all of you to live your lives to the fullest, to become Livitfulists, to do things because you want to, regardless of what society condones, to have fun, to learn, and to be bold enough not to use a towel.